They made a nice instrument and started a business like that. Prabhupada said, that's how I started. I just saw you like dried pumpkins and old sticks and wires. I just put you all together, what Krishna gave, and we started this movement. So that's nice. So Narada Muni, out of his deep compassion, not only for Kamsa, but for all living beings, he's doing the needful. Meanwhile, special effects. Meanwhile, in Vrindavan, the most beautiful pastime is taking place. We can speak many different perspectives of this pastime, but I'd like to begin by showing how Krishna, when we turn to Krishna, Krishna can transform the worst scenario into the best scenario. He can take situations that apparently are so negative and create something extremely sacred and positive. This is a principle. It's a universal principle on every level of life, and especially it's to be understood from a spiritual dimension. That the obstacles, the challenges, the difficulties that come actually could pave the way to an incredible opportunity. Wisdom is to see positive opportunities in every situation. Not just the situations we hope for, we pray for, or we plan for. But other things too. Even tragedies. Even apparent defeat can actually become something beautiful if we just take shelter of Krishna in that situation. How can I serve you? That's the greatest prayer. This Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it's an invocation of Sri Radha's names and Krishna's names. But Srila Prabhupada gave us a mood, a prayer in which we chant. My dear Sri Radha, my dear Sri Krishna, please engage me in your service. When we have this desire to serve, then Krishna reveals opportunities. Krishna reveals ways that we could really grow, even in inconceivable, even insurmountable circumstances. That is bhakti. Tatenu kampam susamikshimano. Even when great reversals come in our life, even that cause us suffering, if with a grateful heart we take shelter of Krishna, thank you, then the doors to liberation open for us. It's a long history, but this Radha Gopinath temple that we're all coming to, I'm not going to go into any of the details because they're too inconceivable. But this started under, and don't ask any questions either. It started under inconceivable, painful circumstances. Otherwise, just none of this would be here. Gopinath wouldn't have come here to Bombay. But somehow or other, even in very difficult challenges, painful challenges, somehow, what opportunity is here? How could we serve? And the temple rose. At Juhu, where we're giving a lecture tonight. Every year on Republic Day, we give a temple on the rooftop of the Juhu temple. So if you're free, please come tonight. And also come to the Kirtan Mela that Prem Kirtan and others are organizing in February. And everything else. So, the kinds of difficulties Prabhupada endured. But because he saw the opportunity, it's now the most famous, wonderful temple in all of Maharashtra, Bombay. So here we find Aristasura. He is a dharma personified, such a hypocrite. He's come in the form of a bull, the emblem of dharma. The emblem of compassion and goodness. He's coming for the most evil, destructive purposes. And he came just at the time when Krishna called the gopis to dance. It seems like he disrupted things. But Krishna transforms everything into something so nice. In the previous verse, we find Krishna called the gopis. It was a beautiful moonlit night. Let us have our Ras Leela. And they all came to enjoy Ras Leela with Krishna, the highest, sweetest, purest, most intimate exchange of love, where the eternal liberated soul dances forever with the ultimate object of their love, Krishna. And all of a sudden, Aristasura comes charging in. And after Krishna did that, he called the gopis and said, now let us dance. And gopis say, we cannot dance with you. So why you're not going to dance with me? Because you killed a bull. We are ahimsa, we are nonviolent, you are Gopal, you are protector of cows. Why you killed a male cow? Good logic. Just close by is Govardhan, which means one who nourishes the cows and the bulls and the senses and the land. Krishna said that wasn't a bull, that was a demoniac Rakshasa person who disguised himself in that form just to kill every one of you and me and everyone. He was a terrorist. He was really a terrorist. These people Kamsa was sending, they were terrible terrorists. And they all disguised themselves in so many ways. Vatsasura disguised himself as a little playful calf. Pudana disguised herself as a loving, beautiful mother. Aghasura disguised himself as an incredible place for the children to play. Yes? So many were disguising in certain ways just to deceive with an evil purpose. So Krishna said, I saved you. He wasn't a bull, he was in disguise. They said, no, still he was like that. So we will not dance with you unless you go to all the holy places in the entire universe and take your bath. Of course they were playful. They didn't mean anything they were saying. They meant to give pleasure to Krishna. That's what they meant. And Krishna wanted to do something wonderful. He said, all right, I will do that. And he took his foot, the heel of his foot, and hit it against the ground and made a little hole. And then he called all the holy places in the entire universe to come and put their waters in that pond that he was creating. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the future pages that we will be reading in future days of our Bhagvatam Kathas, all these holy places came personified. And they filled up the lake. And Krishna bathed in it. And then Krishna said, now I am pure. Krishna purifies everything, but still, for gopis, he's having this beautiful lila. And you sided with a demon. What about you? And Sri Radha, he said, you should come and bathe in my pond. And Krishna, Radharani said, I'm not going to bathe in a pond that is the result of killing a bull. I will make my own pond. And here is the message that we are focusing on. They came to the hoofprint of Aristasura. Yes. The demon came to kill, to terrorize, and he did cause all these miscarriages and everything. And her little gopi friend started excavating the hoofprint of Aristasura. So what was the emblem of the darkest, most terrible thing? They were using it as a basis to create what was to be Radha Kund, the holiest place in all of creation. Hari Hari. So gopis started digging with their hands, and some started taking off their bangles to dig better, and then they kind of excavated Aristasura's hoofprint, because he had big hoofs. And then she called her gopis to go to Manasi Ganga, which is non-different than the Ganga that Krishna, through his mind, brought to Vrindavan. And they were taking buckets and passing them from Manasi Ganga to fill. And Krishna signaled to the personification of the representative of all the holy places in creation. And that personality came before Sri Radha with folded palms and praised Srimati Radharani that you are the supreme Shakti of the absolute truth. Your devotion conquers even Krishna. Your love is the source of all love. Your blessing is the ultimate goal of all life. We beg you, please fulfill our one desire. And this holy place personified was weeping tears of humility, begging Sri Radha, please fulfill our one desire. And she said, what is your desire? And he said, please let us fill your lake with our waters. And Krishna was smiling. And Radha saw this. This was what would please Krishna. And she said to the holy place personified, please come. And then the waters of Sham Kund, Krishna's Kund, lifted up and flooded over to Radha Kund. Krishna told Srimati Radharani that there is no place in all of the universe more dear to me than your bathing place, Radha Kund. Krishna said, anyone who comes here to bathe in this water will get your love and will conquer me by that love. And Radharani said, and I will bathe in your kund. I don't care how many aristas you kill. I will come and bathe in your... And in this way they bathed in each other's kunds, and they bathed in both kunds, and the gopis and Sri Krishna and Sri Radha, and then throughout the night they performed their Ras Leela on the banks of Sri Radha Kund and Shama Kund. Later on, Raghunath Das Goswami came to live there. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, before that, he came to Vrindavan about 4,000 years later. And 4,500 years later, he came to Vrindavan on a pilgrimage for 2 months. And he was especially looking for Radha Kund and Sham Kund. Because over thousands and thousands of years, these holy places were forgotten. But he went to a place called Aritagram, which is named after Aristasura. Because he knew that Radha Kund was made from the hoofprint of Aristasura, the place where Arista was liberated. By the way, Aristasura got liberation by Krishna. It's not that he was killed, he was actually, his demoniac nature was killed, and he attained the ultimate liberation. So, Lord Chaitanya, when he was at the Govardhan Hill performing his parikrama, he was sitting under a tamal tree. And there, being Krishna, with the Mahabhav of Shri Radha, Radha Bhavaduti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam, he was seeing his own eternal Leela. And he saw two puddles of water in a paddy field. And nobody thought they were anything but puddles of water in a paddy field, muddy little puddles. And he saw, this is Radha Kund, Sham Kund. The entire world, even the greatest acharyas, yogis, they couldn't find it. But he's Krishna, he's Radha, he's seeing it. And he went into such an ecstasy, he got up from that tamal tree, and he went to Radha Kund and Shama Kund and was chanting the holy names. He bathed in that kund, he was weeping tears. He came out of the bath, he started offering beautiful, beautiful prayers from the Puranas and from the Vedas about how Radha Kund is non-different than Sri Radha. The water in that kund is filled with her love. And anyone who sincerely humbles himself at that kund will be as dear to Krishna as Radha, because it's so dear to Sri Radha. Then he took the mud from that kund and made tilak on 12 parts of his body. Then he collected the mud to take with him. And the villagers were watching this most beautiful, magnanimous sannyasi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's just in these are fields that they just, would bring their goats and buffaloes and cows to every now and then to drink the water. Well, they understood. This is Radha Kund and Shama Kund. We read about it. It's exalted in the Vedas as the holiest place in the universe. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discovered it for the whole world. And Raghunath Das Goswami, who was the servant of his personal secretary, the servant of the servant for many years in Jagannath Puri, the Prayojan Acharya, he came to live at Radhakund for the rest of his life after Lord Chaitanya departed from this world. And he was living next to those little puddles. And so many stories of Raghunath Das Goswami at that place. One time Sanatana Goswami was traveling around and he was doing the Govardhan Parikrama, and he came and he saw Raghunath Das Goswami sitting in total absorption of the samadhi of prema, of love, chanting Krishna and Radha's names on the banks of these ponds. And because in those days, it was just jungle all around it, and there was just some little villages nearby. He was so absorbed in his chanting, just sitting on the ground, he didn't see that a tiger was just a few feet away from him, drinking the water from Radhakund. When Sanatana Goswami saw a tiger, and Raghunath is just eyes closed, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Now he's transcendental, but the nature of devotees is we care for each other. Yes? So Sanatana Goswami was a tiger. Then he saw Krishna personally appear and stand between Raghunath Das Goswami and the tiger with a stick to protect Raghunath Das. And Raghunath didn't see it because he was Hare Krishna, his eyes were closed. And Sanatana was watching for a long time. Krishna was just standing there guarding. The tiger ultimately went away, and Krishna smiled at Sanatana and disappeared. Sanatana Goswami, he's like the guru of the 6 Goswamis. He said to Raghunath Das, you are chanting Krishna's names and Radha's names for the purpose of engaging in their service, but you're doing it in such a way that Krishna's coming to engage in your service. Raghunath said, what are you speaking? I'm just chanting. And he said, no, your eyes were closed, but my eyes were open. There was a tiger right next to you. Raghunath said, a tiger next to me? There was a tiger. Tigers are dangerous. And Krishna came, and he stood for so long time with a stick to protect you from the tiger. You are engaging Krishna in your service. Raghunath was very humbled. And according to the Brijabasis and the histories, another time Sanatana Goswami, some days later, he came back. And it was the summertime. How many of you have been to Vrindavan in the summer? Someone told me that in some book of world records or something, the record of heat for the world was at Govardhan Hill during a particular summer. Govardhan, literally, during summertime, is one of the hottest places on the planet historically. So, Raghunath is chanting. He's just sitting next to one of his little ponds, chanting next to Radha Kund, Shama Kund. And it's the summertime. And he doesn't have any shade. Just the sun is blazing upon him. And it's noontime. And he's so absorbed in the samadhi of kirtan. But he was absorbed. He didn't even notice the sun. He didn't even notice the heat. He was just with Krishna and with Radha in their name. So Sanatana Goswami happened to see this. And ordinarily the sun, it would be scorching your skin and burning you. But then he saw Sri Radha. On the banks of Radha Kund, Sri Radharani appeared. And she was standing directly under the blazing summer sun, and with her veil, she was making a shade over Radhanath Goswami's head. She was standing in the sun to protect him from the sun. Sanatan was just watching. And after the sun went down a little, she smiled at Sanatana Goswami and disappeared. And Sanatana Goswami said, Radhanath Goswami, you're praying to Radharani to be the servant of her servants, and the way you're praying is she's coming and serving you. First Krishna was in front of tigers, and now Radharani's perspiring under the sun to protect you. We have to do something about this. Because Radhanath Goswami refused to live in any type of residency. He just slept in the ground. He said, let us create a bhajan kutir, a little house where you could do your bhajan. Then you can pray to serve, and Krishna and Radharani don't have to come and serve you. This is the unconditional nature of prema. These are simple, famous stories. But what an incredible, powerful, esoteric message it is. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught, Na danam na janam na sundarim kavitam vajakadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishwari bhavatat bhaktirohaita kidvai. Krishna, I don't want anything from you. I don't want wealth, I don't want fame or prestige or followers, I don't want sensory pleasures, I don't even want liberation from suffering. I only want to serve you wherever you want, whenever you want, for the rest of eternity. If you want me to take birth after birth after birth in this material world, that will be my greatest aspiration, if I could serve you unconditionally. Unconditionally means no selfishness, no egos. Samsadir haritoshanam, for your pleasure. We chant the holy names for Krishna's pleasure, praying to serve. And in this world, in every religion, the tendency is, if we approach God at all, it's for Him to satisfy our desires. Our wealth, our health, our position. So many things we have on our shopping list to ask God for. But the great saints like little Prahlad, he had some serious things to ask for. If you were 5 years old and you were thrown into a pit of venomous snakes, you would probably say, God save me. Yes? He didn't ask for that. He just said, just let me serve you, my Lord. That is, even when Narsinghadev gave him any benediction he desired, Prahlad just asked for basically two things. First, he said, my Lord, why are you tempting me? If I ask anything from you for my service, then I'm not a devotee. I'm a businessman. I've paid my price, now I'm expecting something in return. Bhakti is not about business. I am here for you. If you must give me some benediction, if that's what pleases you, then let me just always remember you as the servant of your servants. And if you really insist on giving me something, then my Father. He did so many terrible things to so many people. Give him liberation. He wanted nothing for himself. This is Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Chaitanya Bhagavat Chaitanya Charitamrita. This simple message. Devotees who risk their lives, who give their lives, everything for Krishna, everything for Radha, everything for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they want nothing except to remember, to be with the devotees, to serve, and to chant the holy name. So most of us would build a house because we want a nice place to live. Yes? But Raghunath Das Goswami had a nice little house made so that he could give better pleasure to Krishna. It was simple, but that was the purpose. And he personified really what is the spirit of Radha Kund. This highest dimension of humility and selfless devotion. Even a drop of that water, if we touch it with faith, the greatest benediction of love will fill our hearts forever. And interestingly, Rupa Goswami tells in his Upadeshamrita, of all the places in the universe, the earth planet is especially sacred because Krishna, Ram, Narsingha, Varat, so many avatars appeared here. And of all the places on the earth, India is very important, very holy because so many avatars and sages and rishis have appeared here. And of all the places in Bharatvarsha, Mathura is where Krishna was born. And of all the places of Mathura, the forest of Vrindavan is where Krishna performed his most intimate pastimes. And in the forests of Vrindavan, the holiest place is Govardhan, Giriraj. Because Krishna lifted it with his little finger of his left hand for 7 days and gave the greatest pleasure to all of his devotees, all the cows and the bulls and the ox and the goats and the sheep and the deers and the peacocks and the parrots and the gopas and the gopis and everybody, 7 days together having a festival with Krishna under Govardhan Hill. And that's where he performs his most beautiful leelas with his cows, with his friends, with the gopis. And of all the places at Govardhan, this most sacred of all places is Radha Kund, because that's where Radharani renders the deepest, most confidential, intimate, loving services to Krishna. And that's where Krishna reciprocates in the most intimate way. So this holy place was made from the print from the foot of Aristasura. How to transform something so apparently negative into something so supremely sacred. This is bhakti. Whatever situations come in life, see the opportunity to serve, to love. And not only are we transformed, but we are empowered to create that transformation. Thank you very much.